UFC Fight Night, Kansas City this Saturday night. We've got the main event in the featherweight division, Max Holloway taking on Arnold Allen, the winner. I mean, for Arnold Allen, if he wins this fight, he will get a championship fight. If Max Holloway wins, he's not getting a fourth fight against Volkanovski, but the main event is what it is. We've got 14 fights on this card from the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri. We kick off the card first with Jocelyn Edwards and Lucia Pudilova. We'll get that fight going in a second, but a lot of veterans on this card as well. You got guys like Clay Guida, you've got Ed Herman, Zach Cummings, Brandon Royval, and Mateus Nicolau are stuck on the undercard, which makes no sense, but we're going to talk about this card as we get going. And folks, if you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. Tomorrow, we'll post our PFL 3 predictions, so make sure to go check those out tomorrow as well. And our first fight will be Jocelyn Edwards taking on Lucia Pudilova. For Jocelyn Edwards, coming off her last fight, where she did win a split decision against Ji-Yeon Kim, and for Lucia Pudilova, long layoff from the UFC, comes back in her last fight, beats Yanan Wu in the second round by TKO over in Utah on that Usman Edwards card. Of course, in the bantamweight division, we've got Pudilova, who was cut from the UFC after losing 4 straight fights, but works her way back to the promotion. And for Jocelyn Edwards, not a bad fighter in her own right as well, winning back-to-back fights over the likes of Ramona Pasquale and Ji-Yeon Kim. I mean, I wouldn't call this fight like a clash of styles or nothing, but I think it is interesting to the point where both these fighters do share a common opponent, at least recently too. It is Wu Yanan. Both these fighters did beat Wu Yanan. Edwards' first fight in Abu Dhabi back in 2021 was a win over Wu Yanan, where she beats her by unanimous decision. And then Pudilova's only fight in her second stint in the UFC is against Wu Yanan. And both these fighters fought Wu Yanan, in two very different styles. For Pudilova, she was able to take down Wu Yanan, see a lot of success in the ground, work her ground and pound once that fight did hit the mat. And then for Jocelyn Edwards, it was a lot of the stand-up game that beat Wu Yanan as well. So I think, honestly, that's where you see kind of the clash of styles in this fight. I think you see Edwards trying to strike with Pudilova. I think for Pudilova, I think you see her try to take down Jocelyn Edwards as well. For Jocelyn Edwards, not bad takedown defense so far in the UFC. She did kind of get ragdolled by Jessica Rose Clark, which I think can be a little bit concerning. And Jessica Rose Clark is not a fighter that is a primary grappler in any stretch of the imagination, and she was able to go in there. She was able to hold Jocelyn Edwards down. That's really what she did throughout the entirety of her fight. And same with Carol Rosa's fight against Jocelyn Edwards as well. It was a lot of ground game, it was a lot of wrestling out of both Rosa and Jessica Rose Clark that beat Jocelyn Edwards. And again, when you look at Lucia Pudilova in her only fight in her second stint in the UFC, it was a lot of wrestling, it was a lot of grappling against Wu Yanan. And if she's able to carry that, wrestling and grappling into this fight with Jocelyn Edwards, it should make for her to have a really good advantage in this fight. Because again, stand-up wise, sure, I'll give the advantage to Jocelyn Edwards. I think she's a better striker. I think she's got a better striking game as a whole. I like her jab more than Pudilova too. I think she should be able to keep distance. But once this fight is hit the mat, I think Pudilova is a lot better than Jocelyn Edwards. Again, you look at the way she beat Wu Yanan, the ground pound that she was able to get, the way she was able to take Wu Yanan's back, I think was really impressive. And there's a reason Pudilova is a favorite in this one. She's coming into this one as minus 140 for Edwards, plus 115. I think Pudilova should be able to win. I'm going to have her to win this fight by decision. Again, I think she copies the game plan that she had in her victory over Wu Yanan, and also what Jessica Rose Clark and Carol Rosa were able to do to Jocelyn Edwards as well. Because again, Jessica Rose Clark's not the best wrestler by any stretch of the imagination. If she's able to do that to Jocelyn Edwards, I think Lucia Pudilova is able to do it as well. So give me Lucia Pudilova to go 2-0 in her second stint in the UFC with a unanimous decision victory over Jocelyn Edwards. Interesting fight now between two guys who are real entry-level UFC fighters, if we're being honest. We've got Aaron Phillips taking on Gaston Bolanos here. For Bolanos, coming off a win in his last fight in Bellator 277. He won on the AJ McKee and Patricio Pitbull 2 card. He comes in there, knocks out Daniel Carey in the first round by first round knockout. And it was his first fight in Bellator in a couple years. Fought in 2020, lost a split decision against Solo Hatley Jr. And then before that, loses to Daniel Carey, the man he ended up beating again in his rematch in 2022, but he lost to him by guillotine choke in the first round. Bolanos was one of Bellator's guys, fought there for a while. I mean, he's had 9 fights with the promotion. All of his fights have been in Bellator so far, at least in MMA. And the UFC kind of just takes him, which is kind of interesting considering, Bolanos is not on a losing streak. He just won his last fight, avenged his second loss, in Bellator. So it's interesting that he's off the Bellator contract and now he's into the UFC. It's like now, I guess, if it was a guy like, I'm trying to think of a random, like Isaiah Hokit just left Bellator and joined the UFC right now. It's kind of something like that, considering, Bolanos was one of their guys for a while. He was a big favorite in a lot of his fights. They gave him a lot of fights that he was supposed to win. He loses 2, but bounces back, wins his last fight in Bellator. I believe that was the card in Long Beach, I think. No, San Jose was McKee Pitbull too. he wins that fight, and he leaves Bellator now onto the UFC, and now they give him a guy in Aaron Phillips, second run in the UFC, his first one, he went 0-2 in 2014, losing back-to-back fights, his first one on the Barao Dillashaw card, and his second one on Henderson Dos Anjos, a fight night card in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Makes his way back in the UFC after winning 5 straight fights, but comes back in 2020, short notice, loses to Jack Shore by rear naked choke in the second round, and then now he's back taking on Gaston Bolanos here. But there's been, the common factor in all of Aaron Phillips' fights so far in the UFC is that he's been taken down, he really hasn't been able to get back up. And that's not where Aaron Phillips wants his fights to be. He wants to strike with guys, and Gaston Bolanos is going to be a guy who wants to strike with you as well. Bolanos is a guy who kind of struggles on the ground too. He's a former kickboxer, and he's a former Muay Thai guy. Bolanos is going to want to strike. Phillips is going to want to strike. It's a fight that really benefits both guys and makes for an exciting fight for the fans. Don't get me wrong. Are we going to see Aaron Phillips or Gaston Bolanos in a UFC title fight? I think ever? Probably not. That's just not how both these guys' careers are going to work. Phillips is a guy who started 0-3 in the UFC. Bolanos is 6-3 professionally, who's 30 years old, making his UFC debut. But this is a fight that should entertain the fans. This is a fight that should result in a highlight reel knockout, and this should be a fight where both guys just willing to throw for Aaron Phillips. I mean, back against the wall, I would say, for him in the UFC, probably his last shot if he does lose this. And for Gaston Bolanos, again, a guy who's 1-2 in his last 3 fights, who's making his debut in the UFC, he's not going to get that many shots in this promotion. I think he's probably going to get 2 max, and this is his first of 2 if he does lose back-to-back fights. So, again, Bolanos, 100% finish rate. They're all by knockout. For Phillips, a lot of knockouts in the record as well, can get it done by decision as well, but I think in this fight we do see a Gaston Bolanos finish. I think we see it in the first round. I'm not overly impressed with Aaron Phillips. Again, he has not been great in the UFC, given this is a fight that he's been waiting to have in the UFC, a fight where both guys are going to strike, where it's going to be a back and forth fight on the feet. No threat of the takedown from Gaston Bolanos. It's going to be a fight that Phillips can settle into and can really get going in. However, I think Bolanos has got more power. I think he's able to strike quicker, so I'm going to go with Gaston Bolanos to win this fight. In his UFC debut, I think he's going to beat Aaron Phillips, and he's going to get it done by first round knockout. Bruna Brazil's a -225 favorite here in her first fight in the UFC, coming off the Contender Series where she won her last fight by head kick knockout in the second round. It's interesting because now she gets Denise Gomes here in this fight. For Gomes, 0-1 in the UFC, first fight in the promotion. It's a loss to Loma Luponi. It's a fight where Luponi really just does everything better than Gomes. I mean, she takes her down, she holds her down for longer, she outstrikes Gomes. Gomes does throw up a couple submission attempts, but it's all Loma Luponi in that fight. Luponi wins 30-27 on most cards. For Bruna Brazil in this fight, again, coming off a big winning streak. She started her pro career 1-2-1. She's now 8-2-1, so a 6-fight winning streak for her. She can get it done on the feet. She can get it done on the ground as well. All around a really solid fighter. And again, there's a reason she's a -2-1 favorite, or she's a 2-1 favorite in her first fight in the promotion. She's just all around, I think, better than Denise Gomes here in this fight. For Gomes, made her way to the UFC in the Contender Series, a back and forth fight on the feet. But for Gomes, again, she's probably going to want to strike Bruna Brazil. For Brazil, she can get it on the ground, she can get it on the feet as well. I think, honestly, you will see a ground game attack for Brazil in this fight. That's probably where she's going to benefit the most in this one. I'm considering just looking at her last couple fights and looking how Gomes has fought as well. Even though Brazil has had a professional boxing fight before, she did do that in between a couple of her fights in Brazil. So honestly, again, if she's got to get it done on the feet, she can get it on the feet. If she's got to get it on the ground, she can get it down there as well. I think she's, again, all around just better than Gomes. Again, the fight with Luponi wasn't great. She didn't really produce much offense at all. She didn't throw that many strikes. She got taken down 4 times. She went 0-for-6 on her takedowns. Yes, she threw up a couple submissions and did make it a little bit interesting with that, but other than that, there wasn't much going on. If Brazil's able to get out of the submission attempts that Gomes will throw up, she should be fine. I don't really see her, having too many problems with those that Gomes is going to give her. So I think Brazil's going to win here. Again, making her UFC debut, I think she's all around better than Denise Gomes. I think she's better on the ground. I think she's better on the feet. I think she's going to win this one by unanimous decision. She could surprise me with the finish here, but I'm going to go unanimous decision win for Bruna Brazil in her UFC debut. So almost even odds in this one. We've got Lando Groovy Vannata taking on it Daniel Zellhuber in this fight. It's been a mixed bag for Lando Vannata. He hasn't been all that active recently, honestly. I mean, his last 3 fights have all taken place in 3 different years. Bobby Green fight was in 2020, loses by unanimous decision. Beats Mike Grundy in 2021 in Houston by split decision, and then drops a fight to Charles Air Jordan by guillotine choke in 2022. And by the way, Charles Air Jordan fighting on a UFC a pay-per-view main card in his next fight at UFC 288 against Crone Gracie. My goodness, what a fight. I mean, I think Jordan likely wins, but you don't know. Charles Air Jordan is good, and Chrome Gracie's really good on the ground too, so I'm excited for that fight. Anyways, that will come up in a couple weeks. But Lando Groovy Vannata taking on Daniel Zellhuber. For Zellhuber, still really young. The guy's 23 years old. Comes into the UFC, beats Lucas Almeida on the Contender Series, beats him by unanimous decision, but then runs into Trey Ogden in his next fight, and Ogden beats him by unanimous decision. Ogden, of course, has come back. He lost to Ignacio Bahamondes last night by unanimous decision. We'll see. Because Zellhuber, again, he's a guy who's going to try to strike with you. He does have some skills on the ground as well, but that was a little bit concerning when he lost to Trey Ogden. So that, okay, Ogden's primarily a wrestler, and Ogden's primarily a grappler, and Zellhuber basically stuffed his takedowns and got him on the feet for 15 minutes, and still lost every single round of him. That was a little bit concerning as Zellhuber. That's what makes you think a little bit, all right, is he in the UFC too quickly? Should he not be here already? I don't know. But for Lando Vannata, he hasn't looked great in a while either. I mean, yes, he beats Mike Grundy by barely beating him by split decision. It's a fight that Grundy shoots 20 takedowns in, and Vannata, okay, beats him. I wouldn't say barely beats him, but he wins the fight. I don't know why it was split. Chris Lee was on crack that night in Texas, but I mean, it's a good win, don't get me wrong. He outstrikes Mike Grundy, but Grundy was kind of was dead set on getting a takedown that he couldn't get, and Vannata just kept outstriking him on the feet once the fight was up there. I mean, obviously, Zellhuber wants this fight on the feet, and I don't think the takedown defense out of Zellhuber is much of a problem. I mean, it's not like Vannata's, a great wrestler. I mean, he's not a bad wrestler, but it's not like Vannata's going to try to take him down either. So you're going to see a stand-up affair between these two guys. But it makes, Zellhuber's last fight and the loss to Trey Ogden against a guy who doesn't specialize in striking kind of concerns me. Because, again, Vannata's not a great striker either. Vannata's just okay at this point of his career. He's getting up there in age. He's had some fights in the UFC. This is going to be his 13th fight in the promotion. He is 31 years old, so actually he's not as old as you do think. But it does concern me a little bit to the point where, okay, right, if Zellhuber is getting outstruck by Trey Ogden, he's probably going to get outstruck by Lando Vannata as well. And it's, again, not like I'm super high on Vannata's striking game, but again, if that's what's going to happen to Zellhuber, it's a guy who's, again, set on getting a takedown in Ogden, what's going to happen when Vannata fights him? It's kind of like if Mike Grundy outstruck and beat Lando Vannata on the feet in that fight that he shot 20 takedowns in. That's basically kind of what happened with Zellhuber and Trey Ogden. Not to that same effect, because that would have been really bad if Vannata lost the fight to Grundy, but still, that's kind of what I'm getting at here, right? Because I think Zellhuber should have won that fight striking-wise. If he is who he is, he should have outstruck Trey Ogden. Vannata in this fight should be able to strike Zellhuber if we give the same Zellhuber that fought Trey Ogden. So give me the slight favorite here in Lando Vannata. I think he'll win this fight by unanimous decision. I think he outstrikes Daniel Zellhuber. I think he wins a close 2-1 decision here. Give me a unanimous decision victory here for Lando Groovy Vannata. All right, let's wrestle. Julian Robertson versus Piero Rodriguez. This fight's going to be contested on the ground. My thing with this fight is, okay, can Julian Robertson pull off a submission? Because that's what happened in her last fight. She was getting beat. Maria Agapova was beating her bad in the first round, striking-wise. On the ground, of course, Robertson was doing pretty solid down there. Second round, Robertson gets her to the ground, submits her. I think Piera Rodriguez is going to have advantages in wrestling in this fight. She is the better wrestler. She is going to be able to take down Julian Robertson. It's a matter of if she can get out of a submission or not on the ground, because Julian Robertson's going to throw him up. That's what she does. She's going to throw up a lot of submissions. I mean, because it's happened before where Robertson gets beat on the feet, she gets beat in the ground, but then, okay, she gets reversal, she takes the back, she throws something up, and she submits her opponent. This is what happened in the Agapova fight. She's getting beat on the feet, she turns it around. Same with Priscilla Cachoeira. Now, I'm not saying Piera Rodriguez is going to come in there and just dominate her on the feet, because that's not really what Piera Rodriguez does. She can do that. She can brawl on the feet, but she, I would say, is better on the ground. But even, okay, in her last fight against Sam Hughes, again, it is a lot of Piera Rodriguez striking with Julian Robertson. And then, or sorry, not Julian Robertson, with Sam Hughes. And it wasn't as much of a wrestling-heavy attack. The Kay Hansen fight was kind of a wrestling-heavy attack, but in all fairness, Kay Hansen was shooting a lot of takedowns too. But I think, again, Rodriguez's best way of winning this fight is probably on the ground. But honestly, it could be on the feet as well. I just don't feel too confident in just purely picking based off of Piera Rodriguez's striking game. I don't think her striking game is bad, but I think it's to the point where it's still questionable. But given, I still think it's better than Julian Robertson's game. But I would be concerned again, and I am concerned in picking Piera Rodriguez because of the way, okay, Robertson can just, in a blink of an eye, take you down and submit you. Because that's how good Julian Robertson is down there. I mean, again, Julian Robertson's a fighter who submitted Rose Namajunas in 1 minute when they had a Fury Pro grappling fight. In 1 minute, she went in there and submitted Rose Namajunas. So who's to say she can't just submit Piera Rodriguez? And okay, maybe Rodriguez backs off on the wrestling attack. Maybe Piera Rodriguez isn't trying to go down there and try to submit Robertson. Maybe she does go try to strike her. Well, okay, Julia Robertson can probably take her down as well then, right? So, I don't know, man. I mean, I was going into this prediction picking Piera Rodriguez, but as I'm talking myself through this one, I think I'm going to take Jillian Robertson. I'm going to take the favorite here in Robertson because I think, I wouldn't be too confident in Rodriguez just trying to grapple the entire time. And if she does, I think eventually she's going to get caught. And then if she does go striking heavy attack, well, I don't think she's going to get Robertson out of there on the feet. And even if that is a good striker, and Maria Agapova couldn't get Robertson out there in the first round, and Robertson just like that took her down and submitted her. So given everything I just talked about, I'm going to take Jillian Robertson to win this fight by submission. I think she's going to go down there. I think she's going to submit Piera Rodriguez. I think you're going to see, just like in her last fight, second round submission against Maria Agapova. I think you see a second round submission against Piera Rodriguez. Again, we'll see. This could definitely be a fight like the JJ Aldridge fight where Robertson doesn't even get the fight on the ground at all. But I'm going to trust that Robertson's able to do that and Robertson's able to get this fight on the ground. And I think Jillian Robertson's able to take it back, and I think she's able to submit Piera Rodriguez. Give me Jillian Robertson to win this fight by second round submission. The two vets now, Zach Cummings taking on Ed Herman. I think, is this a retirement fight for Zach Cummings? It might be a retirement fight for both guys, because Cummings is 38, Herman's 42, two older guys coming into this one. I'm excited though, because again, two veterans getting the showcase with the crowd. I believe, isn't Zach Cummings? Yeah, Zach Cummings is from Kansas City, so it would only be right if this is his final fight. And for Ed Herman, again, Herman coming off a loss in his last one about 2 years ago, but both guys back with the crowd. It should be a fun one. We're going to start with Zach Cummings here. And Cummings, fighter who we haven't seen in a while. His last fight was a win over Alessio Di Chirico back in the pandemic in the Apex 2020. It's that fight where Cummings is winning. He's going to win the fight by decision, but at the very end, he throws a hook kick and boom, knocks down Alessio Di Chirico. I believe it was with the kick. He puts down Di Chirico with like 3 seconds left, scores a knockdown at the end of the fight. Fight almost got called because of the knockout, but Cummings will win it by unanimous decision. And Zach Cummings is a guy who's been around the UFC for a very long time. Made his debut in the Ultimate Fighter season 17. That was a season coached by John Jones and the greatest ever, Chael P. Sonnen. And, Zach Cummings made his debut back at a fight night in 2013, where it was main event in Indianapolis, Indiana, by Carlos Condit and Martin Kampmann. The rematch, the co-main event, was RDA and Donald the Cowboy Cerrone, their first fight. Same fight card where Court McGee beat Robert Whittaker, right? Zach Cummings has been around for a while, and for Ed Herman, he's been around for a damn long time as well. He debuted on the Ultimate Fighter Season 3. Yeah, on the Ultimate Fighter Season 3, he made his UFC debut on a card that Kenny Florian main evented. I mean, this was season coached by Tito Ortiz and Ken Shamrock. That just shows you how long Ed Herman has been around. Ed Herman made his professional MMA debut back in 2003. Zach Cummings made his professional MMA debut in 2017. Zach Cummings is the guy that fought in Strikeforce Challengers 3. It was main evented by Tim Kennedy and Zach Cummings. On the undercard, Tyrone Woodley fought, Daniel Cormier fought. I mean, both these guys, again, just veterans of the sport. They've been fighting for so long, and it's just great that these two guys get a showcase again. I'm kind of disappointed this isn't on the main card. I feel like it should be, because it feels like it is the end for both these guys. I would think, I don't know. And Zach Cummings has had a really good UFC career, 9-4 overall. He's fought some great guys. For Ed Herman, again, fought some great guys as well. He's got a record of 13-11. Both these guys have been active in the past, and it's an all-around good fight. But we've got to pick a winner in this one. I think Ed Herman, both these guys, have good ground games. They've got sneaky good stand-up games as well. Again, it's just a really interesting fight. It is, because Cummings, again, coming off that win over Alessio Di Chirico, where he looks good, but we haven't seen him in 3 years. For Ed Herman, loses to Alonzo Menafield. It's a grueling fight. It's a back-and-forth fight in the feet, but Menafield is getting the better of him. And his fight before that, he's got the fight against Mike Rodriguez, where he's losing, but he knees Mike Rodriguez in the balls, and Mike kind of folds, but Herman's like, well, I'm going to take advantage of it. Kimura submits him. Okay, Ed Herman gets the win. He was on a 3-fight winning streak. He beat Pat Cummings before that, beat Hadias Ibrahimov, beats Mike Rodriguez. Given those aren't the best guys, and Herman really wasn't losing to the best guys before that as well. Lost to CB Holloway, lost to Jan Vellante, but Herman's been around, right? I think Zach Cummings is better, though. I think Cummings is definitely going to beat him on the feet. I think Cummings has a better stand-up game, and if this fight does hit the mat, I think both these guys are solid enough where they should even each other out, but even then, I think Cummings is a better grappler. I've seen Cummings go in there and submit Trevin Giles a couple years ago. I think Cummings can deal with Ed Herman on the ground. I think if it's a matter of a stand-up game, I think Cummings is still the better striker. I think Cummings, again, is younger by 4 years. I think he's still a little bit quicker. Herman did look a little bit slow in that in the Herman Menafield fight. Given it was a tough fight, they fought for 15 minutes. Herman had a decent volume in that one. Same did Alonzo Menafield. But I think Zach Cummings, again, is the better striker. I think he's still more equipped to win this fight. He's got more tools than Ed Herman. And I'm going to take the veteran fighting in his hometown and probably his last fight in Kansas City, Missouri. Give me Zach Cummings to win this fight. I got him to win by unanimous decision. I think, again, it's just a great fight for both these guys to potentially end both their careers. But give me the minus 250 favorite in Zach Cummings to win at home. Give me Cummings by unanimous decision. Speaking of fights that should be on the main card, I mean, Brandon Royval versus Matheus Nicolau. Why is this fight not on the main card? That's crazy. This is the fight of the night for me. I am so excited for this fight. The winner of this fight should be next in line for a flyweight championship fight. It should be the winner of this fight. Should get the winner of Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Moreno. I don't know why that fight has not been scheduled yet, if I'm being honest. But Brandon Royval, Matheus Nicolau is a good fight. It's a really good fight. And for, Royval back-to-back wins. Last one, first-round submission victory over Matt Schnell. Before that, he beats Bontarin by split decision. Loses back-to-back fights before that to Brandon Moreno and Alexandre Pantoja. But the Pantoja fight was a rear naked choke finish in the second round. It's going to happen to you. Brandon Moreno, Royval gets hurt in that fight. And before that, don't forget his victory over Kai Kara France at UFC 253. So my guillotine choke in the second round. And a back and forth crazy fight. For Nicolau, again, this guy's good. I did not think that he beat Manel Kape in his fight back in 2021. That's fair, but since then, 3 straight wins for him in pretty decisive fashion. Tim Elliott, David Dvorak, Matt Schnell. I think the Matt Schnell fight, it's a good win for him, don't get me wrong. But I think we put a little bit too much stock in the Matt Schnell Matheus Nicolau fight. This is why. Okay. Brandon Royval beat him first. Okay, that's fair. But Rodrigo Bontarin beat him first as well. And Matt Schnell acquired all of this hype because of the Sumadarji win. And don't get me wrong, well-deserved. That fight against Sumadarji was crazy. It was one of the craziest comebacks I have ever seen in Long Island or on Long Island in 2022. He fights only less than 5 months later in a fight that he took so much damage in. Sumadarji drops him like 3 to 4 times in that fight. Given Schnell wins, but still he took all that damage and he bounces right back. And, it's going to happen to you when you fight a guy like Matheus Nicolau. I said Nicolau was going to knock him out because, again, it's not like Nicolau's got the most power, but Schnell coming back on short notice, only 5 months. Chin's going to be, wobbly, or he's not going to be great defensively, at least with his chin. And Schnell dropped him a couple times and eventually finishes him in the second round. I think it's a good one, but I don't think we should put all that much stock into it, considering, okay, Royval beat him right before, and I know he beat him in a different way, but, is Matheus Nicolau going to knock out Brandon Royval? I don't think so. Royval's got a decent chin. Royval will be able to stand there and he'll be able to trade with them. I think this is what makes this fight really interesting and intriguing, because both these guys are going to go to war on the feet. On the ground, I think Nicolau's pretty solid down there, but honestly, Brandon Royval can get it done down there as well. I think for Brandon Royval, though, if he's going to have his best way of winning this fight, it's going to be in the stand-up game, I think. I think Royval, he's got... Yeah, but honestly, Royval's ground game isn't bad as well. I like Brandon Royval a lot. I know you submitted Matt Schnell really quickly, but he can get it done on the feet too. You look at the fight that he has with Bontarin. It's Bontarin being very aggressive in terms of takedowns, and it's Royval winning on the feet when that fight is the short moments where that fight is fought on the feet. That's where Royval is winning. Don't forget Brandon Royval knocks down Kai Kara France twice in their fight at UFC 253 in Abu Dhabi. He does get dropped in his own right, but he drops Kai Kara France a couple times in that fight. He submits Tim Elliott before that by arm triangle choke. I mean, Brandon Raw Dog Royval is a tremendous flyweight fighter. Will he be able to knock out Matheus Nicolau? Likely not. And I think both these guys will be able to just, trade on the feet. Also, Royval, 100% takedown accuracy so far in the UFC, given he's only shot 2 of them, so I don't think he's really going to go down there because his opponents will just kind of try to take him down there anyways. And that's where he does get the ground fight. But again, real interesting fight in this one. I'm going to go with Brandon Royval just because I'm a big Brandon Raw Dog Royval fan. I'm a big Raw Dog fan. Pause. But Royval, I think he's able to win this one. Plus 135. Again, I think Nicolau's being a little bit overrated here. Don't get me wrong. I think Nicolau's very good. I think Nicolau's a top 5 fighter, but so is Brandon Royval. So I think both these guys, again, they're going to exchange in the feet. I think if this fight does hit the mat, I think Royval is a little bit better down there. But again, how does it hit the mat it's going to be because of a Nicolau takedown. So I don't think Nicolau is going to be willing to engage in that sort of a fight. So I think if Nicolau doesn't shoot, Royval's not going to shoot. So then you get a stand-up fight, and then that's where I like Brandon Royval. I think Brandon Royval is going to be able to barely just do enough and outstrike Mateus Nicolau, and I think he's going to be able to win a very close unanimous decision. Maybe it might be even a split, but it's going to be a very close decision victory for Brandon Raw Dog Royval, hopefully propelling himself now to a championship opportunity next. Okay, final prelim fight is between TJ Brown and Bill Algeo. For Bill Algeo, losing his last fight by split decision to Andre Fili, loses that one in a close fight. Algeo outstrikes Fili in that one. I mean, it's a really close one because the first round you give to Algeo, the second round I think you give to Algeo as well. The third round's obviously Andre Fili. So I thought Algeo won the fight. I think he outstrikes Fili in the first two, and I think the third round, of course, Fili wins obviously by taking down Algeo and holding him down there, but it was a fight that I thought Algeo won. He doesn't give the decision. It's fine. Before that, he beats Herbert Burns, a fight that he wins by TKO. I mean, is it a really... I guess it's a combination of an accumulation of damage that Algeo puts on Burns, and also Burns just gassing, so he beats him that way. We'll give him a TKO. Beats Joe Anderson Brito before that by unanimous decision. Loses to Ricardo Ramos before that. Beats Spike Carlisle. Comes in the UFC. Loses his first fight to, of course, Ricardo Lamas, and has a fight the Contender Series against now PFL featherweight champion in Brendan Loughnane. For his opponent in TJ Downtown Brown. Brown is currently 3-3 in the UFC. Comes in the UFC, loses 2 straight fights to Jordan Griffin and Danny Chavez. Saves his spot in the UFC by barely beating Kai Kamaka III by split decision. A fight that, honestly, I didn't think he won. But then he beats Charles Rosa by unanimous decision. Loses to Shailan Norenbeka by unanimous decision. And then beats Eric Silva in his last one by arm triangle choke in the third round. It's a fight that was interesting because Eric Silva was a pretty decent favorite in that one. And TJ Brown upsets him and beats him by arm triangle in the third. It's interesting, this fight between Algeo and Brown, because Brown, I mean, he's not bad. I think he's better on the ground, obviously. He's going to try to take down Algeo on this one. If Algeo can stuff TJ Brown's takedowns, though, he should be able to win. The Andre Fili third round, though, against Bill Algeo should give TJ Brown a little bit of, it should give him some confidence going into this one that, a guy like Fili, Fili's a good fighter, don't get me wrong, was able to take down Algeo and hold him down. TJ Brown, TJ Brown should try and replicate that success that, of course, Andre Fili had, but on the feet, again, Algeo really beat up Andre Fili, and I think on the feet, Algeo will have a lot of success against TJ Brown. I think he's a way better striker than TJ Brown. I think he's way better up there. So we'll see. Both these guys 3-3 in the UFC. I think Algeo's the better striker. I think Brown's the better wrestler. It's just a matter of what you like more. I like Algeo striking more, honestly. I think Algeo is able to avoid the ground a lot in this one. I think Algeo is able to keep this fight on the feet, and I think he's able to touch up TJ Brown while they're striking. I don't really see TJ Brown having too much success with the takedown. Sure, he might steal a round with it, but is he able to just take 2 rounds away from Bill Algeo because of wrestling? I don't think so. And when this fight is on the feet, I think Algeo is way better. So give me the minus 165 favorite in this one. I'm going to take Senior Perfecto and Bill Algeo to win this one. I think he gets it done by unanimous decision, again, outstriking TJ Brown to victory and keeping this fight standing. So again, give me Bill Algeo to win this one by unanimous decision. Okay, kicking off the main card, we have got Clay Guida taking on Rafa Garcia. Clay Guida's back, and he's a veteran of the sport. You look how many fights he's had in his professional career. It's a lot. I mean, this is going to be fight number, if I can do the math, 61 for Clay Guida, if I'm not mistaken. That is crazy. I mean, the man has been very active. He's 41 years old now for Clay Guida. He's coming off a win. He won in December. He beat Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman by split decision. And Guida, he's still not bad. I mean, honestly, Guida can get it done. He's won 2 out of his last 3, beating Leo Santos 3 fights ago by Rene Kachok in the second round, losing to Claudio Puelles after that by knee bar in the first round in 3 minutes, and then, of course, beating Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman. This is a tough fight for Guida, though, for being honest. It just is. Rafa Garcia is pretty good. I've picked against Rafa Garcia a lot. I don't know if I'm going to pick against him in this one. You look at his last fight, his win over Mahashet by unanimous decision. He out-wrestles Mahashet for 15 minutes, and he beats him that way. He dropped the fight to Dakar Close. It's going to happen to you. He beats Jesse Ronson before that. He beats Natan Levy before that. Garcia is trying to go in there. He's trying to grapple with you. He's trying to wrestle with you. Every single fight that he's had, except for the Nasrat Haqparast fight in his first fight back in 2021, he has successfully taken down his opponents. He tried in the Haqparast fight they took on somewhat short notice on the Edwards and Bilal Muhammad card. Couldn't take down Nasrat Haqparast. It's fine. Every fight since then, though, it has been an aggressive wrestling attack against all of his opponents. Clay Guida's going to have to fight off that aggressive wrestling attack as well. And Clay Guida is not a bad defensive wrestler, though. 68% takedown defense rate so far for Clay Guida in the UFC. Garcia, 45 takedown percent accuracy clip, even though, again, though, he's going to keep shooting. He's going to shoot, and he's going to shoot, and he's going to shoot some more against his opponents. Stand-up wise, fight's kind of close because both these guys aren't the best in the feet. Rafa Garcia is definitely not the best in the feet. He can fight off his opponents in the feet, though. He can hold his own stand-up wise. Even though I think I'd barely take Guida, honestly, on the feet, but Clay Guida has been submitted 11 times in his career. Guida gets submitted a lot. He's not bad in his own right on the ground, but it's for Guida, we use the expression, kill or be killed on the feet. Either you're going to get knocked out or you're going to knock out your opponent. It's kind of the same with Clay Guida, but on the ground. It's kind of submitted or be submitted on the ground. I mean, 16 wins by submission for Clay Guida, 11 losses by submission. Guida, that's just how he fights. He's been submitted by Charles Oliveira, been submitted by Jim Miller, he's been submitted by Claudio Puelles, but he submits guys like Leo Santos. It's just that's how Clay Guida fights. He's such an interesting fighter. Sometimes you get a really good Clay Guida, sometimes you get a Clay Guida that's not all that great. I feel like this is, though, kind of one of the fights where he is going to get beat on the ground. I'm going to take him to lose this fight. I'm not going to take him to lose by submission. I'm going to take Garcia by decision here. I think Luis Garcia is very talented. Or, sorry, not Luis Garcia. That's a player in the Nationals. Rafa Garcia is very talented. I'm watching the Nationals game right now as I record this video. I think Rafa Garcia is very talented on the ground. I think his wrestling is very good, and I think he should be able to hold down Clay Guida. Again, what we've seen out of Rafa Garcia with the Mahashet win, and even the fight they lose to Dakar Close, okay, he's going in there and he's shooting takedowns. He's successful in most of them. If he's able to take down Clay Guida at least like 2 or 3 times in this fight, and he's able to hold him down for a decent amount, Rafa Garcia should be able to win. I hate picking against my guy, the Carpenter Clay Guida, but I gotta do it here. Garcia's a minus 220 favorite in this one. It's hard to pick against him. Give me Rafa Garcia to win this one by unanimous decision. Okay, next up we've got Pedro Munhoz taking on Chris Gutierrez. For Gutierrez, the biggest win of his career in his last fight, knocking out the answer, Frank Yeager, in Frankie's last fight in Madison Square Garden on the main card. Knocks out Frankie in the first round with a huge knee, puts him away for Chris Gutierrez. I mean, the man is unbeaten in the UFC since 2018. He is in the UFC 7-1-1. He lost his first fight to Honey Barcelos, and he has not looked back since. Beating Ryan McDonald by unanimous decision, beating Geraldo de Freitas by split decision, knocking out Vince Morales, having a draw against Cody Durden, beating Andre Ewell by decision, beating Felipe Colares by decision, knocking out Dana Bakary with a spinning back fist in Columbus, Ohio, winning knockout of the night, and then taking out Frank Yeager and sending him into retirement in a pretty sad ending, but a really good win and a way to elevate Chris Gutierrez's career, as now we will see him against Pedro Munhoz. And for Pedro Munhoz, has not been the same guy recently, let's be honest. I mean, he's a guy who did lose to Frank Yeager. Frankie Yeager's last win was Pedro Munhoz back in a main event in 2020. Munhoz, let's just be honest though, has not been the same guy since he beat Cody Garbrandt. He knocks out Cody Garbrandt in that back and forth war at UFC 235, Jones versus Smith. Munhoz gets the better of Garbrandt, knocks him out, then gets a shot in basically a number one contenders fight. Title eliminator of sorts. Algeo still to go through. Corey Sandhagen next, but he fights Aljamain Sterling, loses to Algeo by unanimous decision, runs into Frank Yeager, loses by split decision, beats Jimmy Rivera by unanimous decision, loses to Jose Aldo by unanimous decision, loses to Dominic Cruz by unanimous decision, and then has a fight with Sean O'Malley, which ends due to an eye poke. It was a fight, though, given Munhoz wins that first round against Sean O'Malley. He's losing the second, but really, there's still 2 minutes to go in that second round. But Munhoz is beating Sean O'Malley, and let's be honest, a not very entertaining first round, but I would still give that first round to Pedro Munhoz. But now we get him and Chris Gutierrez, and I've been seeing the comp online that Chris Gutierrez is kind of just a younger Pedro Munhoz, which I would say is fair. Gutierrez is only 5 years younger than Pedro Munhoz, but I would say Gutierrez doesn't have as much power as Munhoz, but he's a better all-around striker, I would say. I think he's quicker than Munhoz. I think he's more technically sound than Pedro Munhoz. He uses his leg kicks a lot, and Gutierrez uses his leg kicks effectively. You look at the knockout win or the TKO win over Vince Morales, where he wins because of leg kicks to the point where Morales can't stand anymore because if that's how much Chris Gutierrez is knocking or is kicking the absolute hell out of his legs. So I think Gutierrez is just all around. He's got more tools and he's got more weapons than Pedro Munhoz does, at least at this point of his career. Munhoz still got power, don't get me wrong, and Munhoz is going to strike. Munhoz can use his kicks as well, but, you're going to see Munhoz try to box Chris Gutierrez, where I think Gutierrez is just going to mix it up with him on the feet. And I think Chris Gutierrez is going to win this fight. At minus 225, I like El Guapo to win this one. I think, again, all around, he's a better striker. I think Munhoz is getting up there in age. He's getting older, and I think Gutierrez is faster. Again, the guy's 7-1-1 in the UFC. This is a guy, man, who's going to crack his way into the upper part of the top 10, maybe like the top 7 with the win in this one. Does he finish Pedro Munhoz? I don't think so. Munhoz is very good, and he has got a very tough chin to crack. Munhoz has never been finished in all 26 professional fights. All 7 of his losses are by decision. I don't think Gutierrez is going to get that first finish off of Munhoz, but I still think he outstrikes him to a decision. Give me Chris Gutierrez to beat Pedro Munhoz. He'll get it done by unanimous decision. Tanner Boser at 205 pounds is real interesting. I mean, he's making the cut. You look at his last fight where he loses to Rodrigo Nascimento by split decision. He only weighs in at 229, so it's not that big of a cut. And now Boser's down against Ion Cutelaba. He's going to fight at light heavyweight. And for Cutelaba, on a 3-fight losing streak, he needs to win this fight to stay in the UFC. Because if not, he's going to be looking at a PFL season next year for him. I mean, honestly, probably for both these guys too. I mean, Boser, I think he's not getting cut if he loses because he is coming off, I guess, the win to OSP. But he's lost 3 out of his last 4. It's an interesting fight. It's not a very high-level fight, if we're being honest with ourselves here. Boser, I think he's going to have more power down at 205 compared to the guys that Cutelaba's been seeing. But like Kenny and Zellhuber's got a lot of power. He knocked out Ion Cutelaba. Johnny Walker submitted him. Ryan Spann submitted him. Cutelaba just hasn't been good recently. He's won one fight since 2019. Like, and it's Devin Clark. It's a unanimous decision victory. Cutelaba's going to have to wrestle here. If he's going to win this fight, he's going to have to wrestle Boser. It's just a matter of will he take Boser down. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep him down. I honestly don't know. Because Boser's not horrible with his defensive wrestling. He can get back up to his feet, even though Nascimento did hold him down. But Rodrigo Nascimento is a guy who had like 40 pounds on him. Cutelaba, they're going to be the same size. And I don't know if Cutelaba is going to be able to hold Boser down throughout the entirety of this one. I think Boser's going to be able to pop back up to his feet. And if that's the case, I think Boser's striking is a little bit better. Cutelaba's kind of wild. He just is. Cutelaba's wild. His chin's not very good at this point. He gets rocked pretty easily. And I think Boser's just an all-around better striker. I think he's going to have more power than Cutelaba. I think you're going to see a power difference once this fight is on the feet. And if Cutelaba is going to go to his wrestling, he's going to have to, he's going to have to go to the wrestling. And if he can't keep Boser down, what's he gonna do? I think he'll be able to take down Boser at some points in this fight, but again, I don't see him holding Tanner Boser down throughout the entirety of this one. And if he's not able to do that, then Tanner Boser's gonna be able to win. Boser's gonna keep this fight standing. Boser's gonna be able to probably eventually knock him out. So I'm gonna take Tanner Boser by 2nd round knockout here. I'm not all that impressed with the young Cutelaba. He had those 2 fights against Algeo, which he lost both. He's got the split draw to Dustin Jacoby. He beats Devin Clark, but then he loses to Spann, Johnny Walker, and Zellhuber. All really good fighters, and given all 3 of those guys should be around the top 15. The reason I said around is because of Zellhuber. I don't know if he's in the top 15 just yet. It is a step down for Cutelaba, but once you're on this losing track and you're on this losing skid, and now you're getting a guy coming down from heavyweight in Boser who hits pretty hard, I just don't like this fight all around for young Cutelaba. Give me Tanner Boser to beat Cutelaba. He's going to get it done by 2nd round knockout. So, I mean, Dustin Jacoby's last fight, did he really lose? I really don't like that he lost that split decision in that fight against Khalil Roundtree Jr. Looking back at that fight, it's on Cater and Allen in the Apex. Jacoby wins that one. I don't know how the judges don't see that one for Dustin Jacoby. The first round outstrikes Khalil Roundtree 34-20. 2nd round 39-35. That's the round though I would give to Khalil Roundtree. I think he did more damage in that 2nd round. In the 3rd round, Jacoby outstrikes him 47-30. And Khalil Roundtree gets the split nod. I have it 2-1 for Jacoby. Rewatching that fight again, I think Roundtree takes the 2nd. But, man, I don't like that at all. I think, Jacoby's more accurate with his strikes, too. And it's a tough loss for Dustin Jacoby, considering I think he definitely won that fight. Before that, he knocks out Dawoon Jung over on Long Island. He wins by 1st round knockout. Good win for Jacoby. He beats Michal Zellhuber before that by unanimous decision. Beats John Allen. Knocks out Darren Stewart. You know what you're going to get out of Dustin Jacoby. This is a really good striker, a former Glory kickboxer. He's going in there and he's going to kickbox with you. And that's where he specializes in. For Azamat Murzakanov, his opponent in this one, Murzakonov's coming off 2 straight wins to start off his UFC career. 1 in the Contender Series. We're going to talk about the Contender Series fight and his fight that got him in the Contender Series as well, because both those are kind of important to, some fights we've been talking about recently. But for Murzakanov, the last fight, it's a big win over Devin Clark. He beats Clark by TKO in the 3rd round. It is a one-sided beatdown. That fight's not that close. The 1st round's horrible. It's a very boring 1st round. It's a feeling out process. But the 2nd round's all Murzakanov. The 3rd round's all Murzakanov as well. Murzakanov takes over in those last 2 rounds. The final significant strike count for Murzakanov in that fight is 79-14 over Devin Clark. The fight before that for Murzakanov, he beats Stefan Chukwe. He beats him by knockout in the 3rd round. It's a fight that Chukwe is having some success, and I would say Devon Chukwe was up 2-0 in that one. Murzakanov's very slow starting in that fight, but eventually in the third round catches him with the knee and finishes him in the third round. Before that, from Murzakanov, we're going to talk about the 2 fights I mentioned earlier. He gets his way in the Contender Series by beating Mohamed Fakhreddin by uppercut knockout in the first round. Now, that fight is kind of important because Mohamed is now in the PFL, and I think he's one of the worst guys they honestly have at light heavyweight because Martin Hamlet was able to go in there and submit him in the first round. Now, Martin Hamlet got that quick 6, and he's likely on his way to the playoffs. And Murzakanov's win on the Contender Series was against a guy in Mateusz Scheffel who made it to the playoffs last season for the PFL. Now, or actually made it to the championship fight where he lost to Ante Dulia. He just lost to Bruno Capelloza in their rematch. Capelloza, rewrote the wrongs that he had in the fight that really didn't matter for him back in 2022. Capelloza motivated, knocks out Scheffel in their rematch just last week. But for Murzakanov, beats both those guys. Knocks out Fakhreddin, knocks out Scheffel, beats him in back-to-back fights, making his way into the UFC. But the fight that concerns me for Murzakanov is the Tafon Chukwe fight. If Tafon Chukwe is able to outstrike you for the first 2 rounds, then I think Dustin Jacoby is going to give Murzakanov a lot of problems as well, given he runs right through Devin Clark. But I don't honestly think Devin Clark's all that great at this point. Yes, he beats Da Un Jung. He's a big underdog in that fight, beats Da Un Jung, but I think Kennedy Nzechukwu is going to get him. I think Jacoby's just levels ahead, though, of Devin Clark. I don't think he's levels ahead of Murzakanov, but I think he's just better than him. I think he's going to outstrike Murzakanov for 15 minutes. I think the tools and the skills that Jacoby's got are way better than what Azamat Murzakanov's got. Again, Murzakanov cannot fall behind against Justin Jacoby, and I don't think he's just going to one-shot knock him out like he knocked out Tafon Chukwe. I think Jacoby's got a really good chin. He's going to be able to stay in there. He's going to avoid taking big risks, especially late in the fight if he is up already 2-0, which I think he's going to be. So give me Dustin Jacoby. I think he's going to win this fight by unanimous decision. I think honestly he's going to win every single round in this one. Give me Jacoby to get back on the winning track. I think he's going to, again, he should have won that fight against Roundtree, but he's going to win this one. He's going to beat Murzakanov, and he's going to get it done by unanimous decision. Co-main event spot and a good one. We have got Edson Barboza taking on Billy Quarantillo. This is interesting because for Edson Barboza, he is in desperate need of a win. He's dropped his last 2 fights, and given his last one was a tremendous performance over a guy in Shane Burgos, who's going to be fighting in the PFL in the main event next week, who we're going to talk about tomorrow. And Shane Burgos is relevant to Billy Quarantillo too. We'll talk about that in a second. But for Edson Barboza, his last 2 fights, both losses. The fighting Giga Chikadze in the main event, he gets finished in the 3rd round. Chikadze looks really good in that one. By the way, where's Giga Chikadze went? Well, lost to Calvin Kattar. We haven't seen him since. Got dominated by Calvin Kattar. We haven't seen him since. But for Chikadze in that Barboza fight, he beats up Barboza, finishes him in the 3rd round, knocks him down twice in the 3rd round. Barboza holds his own, but I would say Chikadze was up 2-0 before the knockout. And then for Barboza's last fight, man, it was not good. Bryce Mitchell dominates him. Mitchell knocks him down in the 1st round, but it's more of just a wrestling attack from Bryce Mitchell. And again, it's not like Bryce Mitchell is a better striker than Edson Barboza. I bring this up all the time. It's the simple Conor McGregor, Khabib Nurmagomedov example. Khabib Nurmagomedov's not a better striker than Conor McGregor, but Khabib Nurmagomedov knocked down Conor McGregor because Conor McGregor was so worried about the takedown to the point where, okay, Khabib can just sneak a right and drop him. That's basically what happened with the Bryce Mitchell and Edson Barboza fight. No, I'm not comparing Bryce Mitchell to Khabib Nurmagomedov, and no, I'm not comparing Edson Barboza to Conor McGregor, but that's just how I kind of, see that fight, and that's always the example I will bring up. But Barboza's in need of a win after those 2 fights. He beat Shane Burgos before that in a tremendous fight at UFC 262. He barely, he wouldn't barely beat Burgos, but he beats him. It was a fight that I would say was 1-1 going into the 3rd, and Barboza was likely on his way to beating Burgos, even though it was really early in that 3rd round, but it was a good fight. Burgos wins. It's that delayed weird knockout where he hits Burgos, does Barboza, and then Burgos kind of goes back against the fence and just kind of collapses. It's kind of scary. It was just, I guess, a delayed knockout, but Barboza wins. He beats Makwan Amirkhani before that by unanimous decision, and before that, he was on a big winning streak, lost 3 fights to the likes of Dan Ige, Paul Felder, and Justin Gaethje, and then before that, it's that, pure domination that he's got against Dan Hooker, where he just folds him with a bunch of body kicks in that fight. It's undenying how good of a stand-up game Edson Barboza still got, though. Barboza is still a tremendous striker who can go at it on the feet. Billy Quarantillo is a guy, though, who surprisingly, I didn't realize he's 34 years old. Billy Q is kind of getting up there because he just hasn't been in the UFC for all that long. Made his debut at in 2019 over Jacob Kilburn in DC on the Overeem Rosenstreich card. But for Billy Q, of course, his last fight, he beats Alexander Hernandez, finishes him on the feet by TKO in the 2nd round, which you expect. Has that war against Shane Burgos, it's a fight that everyone will remember as the fight of the night at UFC 268. If it was not for, they had to fight right after Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler. The best fight, honestly, I think that we are going to get in our generation, Gaethje Chandler. It's a back and forth war. Burgos outstrikes Quarantillo 193 to 164, wins that fight by unanimous decision. Before that, for Billy Q, he beats Gabriel Benitez. He loses to Gavin Tucker by unanimous decision, where he gets out wrestled, beats Kyle Nelson, beats Spike Carlisle, beats Jacob Kilburn, and that's been the UFC for Billy Q. Billy Q's a good striker, don't get me wrong. You're likely not going to see much of a ground fight in this fight. I don't think so. You're not going to see much wrestling, I don't think. Obviously, if anything, it's going to come from Billy Quarantillo. I don't think it's going to happen. So I think you see a bunch of striking in this fight. And I think Edson Barboza is going to get the better of Billy Q. Again, you look at Barboza's last couple fights, again, no denying how quick Barboza still is on the feet, but you look at his last couple fights, it's against guys. Chikadze's a really good striker. Bryce Mitchell, really good wrestler. He gets a guy in Billy Quarantillo who's a good striker, but a guy that Barboza can definitely beat on the feet. So give me Edson Barboza to get back on the winning streak. I think he's going to get back on the winning ways by beating Billy Quarantillo. Even as an underdog in Barboza, I really like this value at plus 140. I think he goes in there, and I think he outstrikes Billy Q. Give me Edson Barboza to get the win. I like him to beat Billy Quarantillo. He's going to get it done by unanimous decision. Main event time. Max Blessed Holloway versus Arnold Allen. Should be a good one. 5 rounds. Main event, Kansas City, Missouri. We'll see. Max Holloway, Arnold Allen. Again, if Allen can win, he will likely get a title shot. If Max Holloway wins, he just goes back into the featherweight division. He's just like, all right, who does he fight again? Because there's not many guys for him to fight left. I think next up for Max, if he wins, if he wants to stay in the division, likely Movsar Evloev. That's probably the next reasonable fight for Max Holloway if he wins here, right? If Arnold Allen wins, it's going to be the title shot next. But for Max Holloway, coming in, last fight, lose to Alexander Volkanovski. It was the least close fight of the trilogy. It was exactly how we thought it was going to go. We thought Volk was going to melt him, and he did. That just shows you the levels in the featherweight division are Alexander Volkanovski, gap, Max Holloway, gap, everybody else. And that's how it's going to go, because that just shows you how much better Alexander Volkanovski is than everybody else. Because look at the way Max Holloway beats guys before the Volkanovski fight, the third fight. The way he beats Yair Rodriguez, who Yair is getting a world championship fight in July against Alexander Volkanovski, where Max Holloway beats him 4 rounds to 1 and outstrikes him 230 to 159. Okay, the Calvin Kattar fight, Max outstrikes him 445 to 133. That's just what Max Holloway does to guys. Is it going to be anything different in the Arnold Allen fight? I don't know. Because Allen does have more power than some of these guys, I would think. You look at his last 2 fights, both of them are knockouts given. Okay, the Calvin Kattar fight was a leg break. That Kattar, it was a knee injury from Kattar after he threw a leg kick or after Allen threw a leg kick. That's fair. The injury was kind of caused because of Allen. But you look at Allen's fight against Dan Hooker. Again, Hooker wobbles him some, but Allen is just quicker to the punch, and Allen wobbles Hooker and eventually finishes them 2 minutes in that first round. It's a crazy 2 minutes in London, but Arnold Allen picks up the win. You look at his fights beforehand, he beat Sodiq Yusuff by unanimous decision. It's a fight that Yusuff outstrikes him in. It's just that Allen, Allen does get outstruck 21 to 47. It's just that Allen was just better in certain spots with his wrestling and whatnot. It's a closer fight than you do remember, though, because, Yusuff does take a round off of him. Allen beats Nick Lentz before that. He beats Gilbert Melendez before that. Arnold Allen's not a bad fighter. He's not a bad fighter. I just think there's levels to this game, and I think Max Holloway's on a different level than Arnold Allen. That's how I see it. I think Holloway's just better. Striking-wise, Max is going to be quicker. Power-wise, sure, Allen might have more power than Max Holloway. He might be able to threaten a little bit with his power against Max Holloway. But my point I'm going to bring up here is that Max Holloway's seen a bunch of different guys in this weight class, and everyone has power that Holloway's seen. Holloway's seen guys that have a bunch of power that can knock him out with any punch, and what has he done? He's gone the full distance with them. Volkanovski, Rodriguez, Kattar, Ortega, Poirier, Jose Aldo. He hasn't been finished by any of these guys. You can say Max is punch drunk or whatnot, but he's yet to be finished by knockout in his career. He's only been finished once. It was by submission back in 2012 in his 5th fight against Dustin Poirier at UFC 143. All right, the guy doesn't get knocked out. So he's not going to get finished by Arnold Allen. Sure, Allen might be able to put some damage on him, but my point being with this one is Allen going to be able to keep up with Max Holloway? Because you know the volume, and you know how much Holloway is going to strike with his opponents and the volume that he's going to bring. Is Allen going to be able to keep up with Max Holloway? I don't think so. I don't think he's able to keep up with Max, because Max does this to guys, and guys who I think are quicker than Arnold Allen, who have got better tanks than Arnold Allen, primarily Yair Rodriguez. Max was able to melt him with his cardio, given Yair was able to throw back, but Max still won the fight. And I think the same thing goes with this one. I think Allen might win a round, but I just think it's just Max is just a different type of guy. And I know Arnold's 10-0 in the UFC, and he's a good fighter who's got a very bright future. But Max Holloway is the best gatekeeper in all of mixed martial arts, and it's just going to come again. You have to beat Max Holloway to get a championship fight, and no one's been able to do it. And the reason Yair is getting a title fight is because he got an interim fight against Josh Emmett. Arnold Allen's gonna have to find the same formula, because you're gonna have to beat Max Holloway, I think, to get a title shot as this division keeps on going. And it's to the point where what's gonna happen, because Max is gonna keep winning. What, they're gonna give him a fourth fight against Volk? I don't think so. So Max is just essentially waiting for Volk to eventually drop the championship. We'll see what happens. It's what happened with Colby Covington, I guess, right? Colby eventually is gonna get another title shot because Kamaru lost. We thought Whitaker was gonna get Pereira if Pereira beat Adesanya. Obviously Izzy won the rematch, so what does Rob do now? I don't know. Hopefully, I guess he kind of waits and hopes that Hamzat beats Izzy, if that's what we're looking for next for Adesanya. But my point being, again, with Max Holloway, what does he do next? He probably keeps on fighting these guys and keeps sending these guys down the ladder. This one is going to be Arnold Allen, and a guy who's undefeated in the UFC, one loss professionally back in 2014 in Cage Warriors. For Max, again, he's going to keep shooting these guys down. He's going to be the gatekeeper, and I think the next fight for him is another undefeated guy who I think is a very tough stylistic matchup for him. A fight that he can definitely win, though, in Movsar Evloev. I think that's what's going to be next for Max. We'll see, but in this one, I've got him to beat the British-born fighter, Arnold Allen. I got him to win by unanimous decision, 4 rounds to 1. So folks, thank you for watching our UFC Fight Night Kansas City predictions here on the channel. In the main event, Max Holloway, Arnold Allen. Folks, thank you for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. We will be back for our next card, which will be back in the UFC Apex. Of course, they can't get out of that damn place, but in the Apex, I believe, is it next week or is it 2 weeks? It will be, it's next week, yeah. Main event, Sergey Pavlovich taking on Curtis Blades. It is a shame that that one is in the Apex, but that's what we're going to have for you next week again on the channel, next Sunday, so don't miss that one. Folks, thank you for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Come back tomorrow for PFL predictions as well. Folks, thank you for watching, and Mamba forever.